Born as Herman Webster Mudgett in 1861, Holmes would later become one of America's most infamous serial killers. His early life showed signs of cruelty. He was reportedly bullied as a child, but also exhibited a disturbing fascination with death. As he grew older, Holmes pursued a medical degree from the University of Michigan, where he honed his skills in anatomy and dissection skills he would later use for horrifying purposes. After college, Holmes engaged in various scams, including insurance fraud, grave robbing, and identity theft. But it was in Chicago, during the 1893 World's Fair, that his most sinister crimes would take place. He constructed what became known as the Murder Castle, a labyrinthine hotel designed for torture, murder, and disposal of bodies. Holmes purchased a large building in the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago and remodeled it into a hotel. The structure was a nightmare come to life, designed with hidden rooms, trapdoors, secret passages, soundproof chambers, and staircases that led to nowhere. It even had a crematorium in the basement, along with vats of acid and pits filled with quicklime methods he used to dispose of his victims. Unbeknownst to his employees and guests, the hotel was essentially a house of horrors. Workers were hired and fired quickly, ensuring that only Holmes knew the building's true design. The World's Fair of 1893 brought thousands of visitors to Chicago, many of whom checked into Holmes' hotel, never to be seen again. Holmes preyed primarily on young women, luring them with charm and false promises of work or marriage. Many of his victims were women who had moved to Chicago seeking new opportunities. He manipulated them, seduced them, and then led them into his elaborate house of death. One of his methods of murder involved trapping victims in soundproof rooms and filling them with gas, suffocating them as he watched. Some victims were dropped into chutes that led directly to the basement, where their bodies were dissected and stripped of flesh. Holmes was known to sell skeletons to medical schools, profiting from his gruesome crimes. Among his many victims were Julia Smythe and her daughter, Pearl. Julia was an employee at his pharmacy and became romantically involved with Holmes. She and Pearl mysteriously disappeared after Christmas in 1891. Another victim, Emmeline Sigrin, was believed to have been suffocated in a vault-like chamber. Holmes' crimes eventually caught up with him, though not for murder at first. After the World's Fair ended, he fled Chicago and continued his schemes in different states, including Texas and Pennsylvania. His downfall began when he partnered with Benjamin Pitezel, a conman in an insurance fraud scheme. Holmes convinced Pitezel to fake his death to collect insurance money, but instead, Holmes actually killed him and took the payout for himself. Holmes then kidnapped 3 of Pitezel's children, leading them across multiple states before murdering them. This crime was the final nail in his coffin. Investigators who had been tracking Holmes' fraudulent activities soon uncovered the extent of his atrocities. When police searched the murder castle, they were horrified by what they found: bloodstains, bone fragments, and torture devices. Holmes was arrested in 1894 and put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitezel. Eventually, he confessed to killing 27 people, though some estimates suggest he may have murdered up to 200 victims. His confession was chilling. He described feeling no remorse and even referred to himself as possessed by the devil. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was executed by hanging in Philadelphia. But in a final eerie twist, his body did not drop immediately. Instead, he slowly strangled to death due to a miscalculation in the hanging. Holmes' murder castle was mysteriously destroyed by fire in 1895, with reports suggesting arson. Today, a post office stands on the site where his house of horrors once stood. The story of Holmes remains one of the most disturbing in American history, solidifying his place as the country's first documented serial killer. His ability to manipulate, deceive, and murder on such a large scale is a chilling reminder of how evil can hide in plain sight.